You will never, ever, ever know if this life is for you until you try it. I promise you. The second you start trying something new, it's going to open up this whole world for you, this whole world of complex questions and problems that you have to ask yourself, is this a complex question and problem that I want to be solving for the rest of my life? And I would like to believe that us as humans are very inquisitive, curious creatures that love to solve problems, but they have to be the right problems. And so finding a career that is fulfilling for yourself is about finding the right problem for you to solve, if you know what I mean. We are gathered here today because someone, you watching this video, decided that going through the motions of life and things are just not vibing, things are not working out. You want to make some changes, but you don't know where to start. And as someone who has built my own creative business and really engineered my life to support the lifestyle that I want, I thought that I would just turn on a camera today and tell you guys my own brainstormings of how to build your perfect dream life. So first, we have to understand our life as a lot of different villages that live inside ourselves. We have the village about personal fulfillment, so that's the village of relationships. Do you have fulfilling relationships in your life, whether that's a life partner, good friends, good family? I kind of wanted to save the question of friendships and relationships for a different video and focus on the work aspect first. So if you were going to look at your work and career aspect of your life right now, ask yourself what that looks like. What exactly are you doing? Are you working full-time, part-time? Are you self-employed? And something that I also want to kind of bring to your attention is a lot of times people think about life like either you're full-time, you're part-time, or you're self-employed, and it's sort of they're all in different buckets. For me, I have found a lot of fulfillment in moving between buckets. By this, I mean I don't want you to feel too attached to one single way of doing things. Whether that's only being a full-time employee to someone else or being fully self-employed, there's a lot of gray area where you can do both at once or you can move between, and it's especially commendable and important that you're listening to your body and listening to the alignment that you feel in your own life. You don't want to be pushing yourself too hard and forcing yourself to do one thing or the other just because you feel like it's giving up or failure to be moving back and forth. Life is going to be messy. Life is going to be wild. Let yourself feel the wild. Our lives are so wide and cool. They're so full of magnitude and coolness. And sometimes whenever we are online scrolling through the algorithms, we see only one black and white kind of life, and we're like, oh, that's what I need in order to be happy, because you get the dopamine hit when you're scrolling through Instagram, right? But that's just not the vibe. That's just not the case. Our lives will be so messy, and it's important to embrace the messiness so that we don't judge ourselves for the messy. I hope you know what I mean. Now that we have defined that there are no rules, let's talk a little bit about what questions we can ask ourselves when we are feeling misaligned in our work. So when I was talking to one of my best friends about this earlier this week, one of the first questions that I asked, and we broke this up into components, I said, there's going to be a financial aspect of fulfillment to your job. There's going to be a personal aspect of fulfillment. So this is kind of the purpose that you feel, that when you show up to work, you're like, oh, this is nice. I feel good when I show up. I feel like my work matters. And then there's going to be the lifestyle balance part of the job. The amount of work that you have feels fulfilling to you. Some people have very high capacities for a lot of work. They're hustlers in a way. And I don't mean this in a way that they're always pushing themselves, but for instance, myself, I am a very high capacity kind of person. And yeah, I can get to points where I push myself a little bit too much, but I will feel so utterly bored if I don't have things to do. I will be like, what am I doing with I need things to do. But then other people, they will feel like I need a little bit less to do. I need to feel relaxed, chilling, going with the flow. And that is just our different personalities coming together in this world to make a beautiful one. You know what I mean? And so it's important to recognize sort of what you want your life to look like, how often you want to be working and how often you want to be clocked out, mentally out of it, just chilling in the world, playing games, being with your friends, all those kinds of cool things, the lifestyle balance. What we want to do is kind of look at your life exactly as it is right now and kind of rank maybe 1 to 10 in these 3 different buckets about how fulfilled you might feel in each of these different areas. If you're watching this video and want to journal along, you can pause this video and journal that out a little bit, maybe a paragraph or 2 per ranking and tell yourself how you feel in each of those different buckets. Now that we know how we feel currently with our current position, let's think about if we were to be a mad scientist at the table right now and were to change literally anything about our current position to make it fun and cool. Like, what would that look like for you? Sometimes you might be in a job that job-wise, like the actual tasks that you're doing, feel good and feel aligned, but you might have too high capacity of a workload on your plate right now. Or sometimes you might have the right amount of work to do that you're like, every time I show up to work, I feel good because I don't have to do too much, or I'm doing enough that I feel good and happy. But it might not be the kind of work that you just vibe with. Sometimes that happens, you know? We all have our different unique strengths. Some of us are more analytical, some of us are more creative. Some people really like to work with their hands, other people really like to work in their heads. And so it's important to understand in your current position what you're doing right now that's really fulfilling to you. I know that sometimes we're going to have aspects of our jobs that we might not fully love, but it's about asking yourself if the balance is worth it for you. And then you also have to consider the financial support that your job gives you. I think that this is one of the most thought about questions when asking yourself if you should leave a job, take a job, those kinds of things. And I think it makes sense because at the end of the day, we all go to work to get money. That's how it rolls. That's how the society was built. I clock in, I get the pennies, I leave. Whenever you're asking yourself if you want to make a transition to a different career, you'll have to find something that is either equally supportive or more supportive than your current financial situation. Or sometimes you might be in a position where you have enough like savings built up so that you can take a little bit of wiggle room, or you can take a little bit of a pay cut just because you're looking for a little bit more joy and fulfillment in life. For instance, the friend that I was helping this last weekend, she works as an administrative assistant. The admin company that she works for puts a cap on how much she's able to make per hour. And so when we were talking about the financial aspect of her job and how that supports her, it became very clear that there's no way to move up here. You know what I mean? And the financial aspect, it just barely supported. It was like a good amount of support, but it would just be a lot nicer to be able to have a little bit of wiggle room, have a little bit more. And so the only solution in a case like that is to either offer services freelance on your own or to find a different position at a different company. Something about being employed for someone else versus being self-employed is that being employed for someone else often puts a cap on your income that is either evaluated once a year in this economy if you're lucky, depending on the company you work for, or sometimes it's just fixed and it's beyond your control. Something that I felt very grateful and thankful for in my life in the last 2 years is learning the skill of making money on your own. And I'll probably make an entire video about this later, about the skill of like putting yourself out there. And it's something that I call you move first. Essentially, when you're employed for somebody else, they move first. The employer gives you the task to do. They tell you how to do it. And then you learn the task and you go off on your own. When you are self-employed, you have to be the person that moves first. And this is an aspect of also evaluating if your career is working for you too, because some personalities are just better fit for being a follower or being a leader. Some, like for instance, if you find yourself anytime you kind of get a directive, like having things that you want to change, add, or adjust about the directive you were just given, maybe you even are given a task to do and you're like, hey, it would make more sense, it would be more efficient to do it a different way, and you find yourself that is where you feel most in your element, it makes sense that self-employment might be a good avenue for you to try. Either that or something like an operations manager, project manager, someone who works well managing teams. Anyway, now that we have defined our level of fulfillment with our current setup, so that's where we are right now without changing a thing. We ranked ourselves 1 through 10 in financial, personal, and lifestyle. Now we're going to brainstorm maybe things that you have always wanted to do but never gave yourself the chance to even try. Things that you see other people doing and you're like, that would be really interesting, you know? That this is where we start making a list of all the different things that we think that might fit us in life. And this is really fun to do either with a friend or, you know, someone like me. I do offer one-on-one coaching. I'll link that below. This way, whenever you're brainstorming this list, this friend or person can check you. So for instance, sometimes my friend would be like, oh, I'm interested in doing X or Y. This this friend was like, oh, well, I'm thinking of maybe being a teacher. And then I'm like, well, she also mentioned that she really finds a lot of fulfillment in finishing tasks and being like the project, like finishing projects rather than repetitive tasks each day, which I can completely understand. But she also really liked the lifestyle aspect of her job because she worked remote. Whenever she mentioned maybe wanting to be a teacher, I was a little bit quick to say, maybe a little bit of a red flag here. Given the things that you've mentioned in these other areas of your life, I don't know if teacher aligns for you, just because you mentioned really liking the lifestyle balance that you have right now working from home. And there are options to probably be an online teacher if that's something that you're interested in. But I knew this girl. She was a creative type. One of her favorite jobs in the past is doing audio engineer for a company. It was like a short, small gig kind of thing. And so at the end of our conversation, I told her that the teacher thing could interrupt her lifestyle just because I knew a different person in my life. They quit being a teacher and swapped to a different job, particularly because of the lifestyle piece. And because of that anecdote I knew from that one person, I relayed that information to my friend and we were like, yeah, maybe that might not be the best thing. Because something else, a trap I can see people falling into sometimes is trying to overly rely on higher education when the job that they want at the end of the line doesn't necessarily require that higher education. So for example, as an artist, like I don't necessarily need a college degree. I have a bachelor's from like earlier on in my life because I did the thing you do. You go to high school, you go get your college degree, and then that's how you do life. But I can frequently see people who end up going to school, going to higher education, particularly because they don't know what else to do. And there's absolutely no shame to not knowing what to do. I have been there for sure, but that's why it's very helpful to kind of brainstorm with another person your options apart from higher education, because you really don't want to go into debt unless you're like, being a doctor, being a lawyer, something that requires that degree and has a planned path for a career afterward. If you're seeking a degree that's not in that case, my personal opinion, and you're welcome to disagree with me. You're welcome to disagree with me in the comments. I don't mind. We're all on our own journey in life, as they say. But my own personal opinion there is it's better to try to work your way in the career before looking at higher education. And if you are working that career and you keep hitting a roadblock because people are like, I want this one degree kind of thing. For instance, like if I'm a painter, for instance, and I try to get commissions and then everyone I talk to says, what's your degree? Or did you go to art school? And that matters and that affects my ability to get clients. Then at that point, then it might be worth it to go to art school. That doesn't happen, of course, because and anyone just looks at my work and they're like, oh yeah, I would love to commission a painting from you. You know what I mean? So I would apply that same logic to whatever career that you're looking at. If you're like, oh, do I need to go to school for this? My instinct says probably not. And just try the smallest version of the career that you can find. For instance, the smallest version of this career is to, post in Facebook groups, ask if anyone needs an audio engineer in our area, going to local places that have stages set up and talking to the manager and being like, hey, I'm an audio engineer. If you ever need someone to help with shows, here's my card, my number, that kind of thing. There are ways to try to get involved in your community in the areas that make sense for your career without just like going and getting a piece of paper from school. So anyway, now that we have identified our level of fulfillment in our current life, also brainstormed a list of possible careers we would like to try. I touched on this a little bit, but now our next task is to find the smallest bite-sized version of this selected career and to try it out. So the example that I just gave you of my friend wanting to go into audio engineering, the smallest possible bite-sized version of this career is to make a very simple offer, maybe 1, 2, not more than 2 is your max. And if you're able to do any market research, people that already have your desired job and what they list their skills for, what offerings they have and what seems interesting to you, you will never, ever, ever know if this life is for you until you try it. I promise you. The second you start trying something new, it's going to open up this whole world for you, this whole world of complex questions and problems that you have to ask yourself, is this a complex question and problem that I want to be solving for the rest of my life? And I would like to believe that us as humans are very inquisitive, curious creatures that love to solve problems, but they have to be the right problems, you know what I mean? And so finding a career that is fulfilling for yourself is about finding the right problem for you to solve, if you know what I mean. Anywho, I think that has been a video for today. I think that we've covered the basics, as they say. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments because I would love to believe that working should be fulfilling and nourishing to your soul. And there's always going to be parts about your job that you don't love, but it shouldn't be like a daily, like, ugh, I hate this kind of thing. And if you're here watching this video, you are a creative soul that is capable of so much more. I just know it. I just know that you're here with these dreams, and I would love for you to reach them. I would love for you to go about your day with Tazo sneezing in the background. Let me know if this was helpful. Like, subscribe, all that kinds of stuff. And as always, spending any amount of time here on this channel with me is a gift. I really do consider it a gift, and for that, this humble artist says thank you. I feel like this line of light has been in my face the entire time, and whenever I go to edit this, it's gonna be a question of, was this very distracting? Because if so, I'm gonna cry.